Hey guys. So, apparently I didn't make the recording. I thought I had, but yeah. We're doing Acts 27 today. Let's begin. I'm going to reread this. I'm not going to really go too deep into stuff even though I wanted to, but um yeah, we're just going to go through this pretty fast. So, and you guys can of course study this on your own time. Anyways, let's begin. And when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus's band. And entering into a ship of Adramyttium, we launched, meaning to sail by the coasts of Asia. One Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. And the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously entreated Paul and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. And when we had launched from thence, we sailed under Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and scarce were come over against Cnidus or Nidus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete, over against Salmone, and hardly passing it, came unto a place which is called the Fair Havens. Nigh whereunto was the city of Lacia. Now, when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast now already passed, Paul admonished them, and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the landing and ship, or lading and ship, but also of our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul, right? They didn't believe Paul's prophesying here, right? Excuse me. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence. Also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenice, and there to winter, which is an haven of Crete, and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. I mentioned this in the past video, but I think it's like somewhere in between there, but I'm not sure because I don't really understand some of the stuff in the Old English that the King James is written in. Um, anyways, and when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, loosing thence, they sailed close by Crete. But not long after there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. Apparently, they named storms back then too. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive. And running under a certain island which was called Claudia, we had much work to come by the boat, which when they had taken up, they used helps, servants, undergirding the ship. I think they probably did something to the ship to like make it a little more armored. I think that's what it is. Or maybe they like put like uh some kind of like sort of like how in the ark when Noah was building the ark he put like some, I can't remember what it's called, but he put like some sap or something on it to like seal it. I think that's what they were doing. Anyways, let's continue. And, fearing lest they should fall into the quicksands, strake sail, and so were driven. And we, being exceedingly tossed with a tempest, The next day, they lightened the ship. In other words, they threw stuff overboard, right? Some of the supply that they had taken, they threw it to make the ship faster and lighter and less likely to tip over, right? And the third day, we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. They probably threw some part of the ship away. I don't know what the tackling of the ship is, but that's what I'm guessing. They threw part of the ship out into the sea. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. But after long abstinence, right, because Paul was probably quiet during that time because they basically disregarded what he was saying, stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. And lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. I said this the last time I wanted to record this, but again, apparently it didn't record. So I'll say it again, because I think this is an interesting thing. In the same way that we are given to Jesus and we are in Christ, these men were and like preserved by the life of Christ. These men were preserved by Paul's life, right? And I said this too in the last one. I am not saying that Paul is the Messiah, okay? It's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that in the like manner that we who are Christ's are preserved by his life, right? These men on the ship were preserved by Paul's life because Paul had to be brought before Caesar, right? Let's continue. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit, we must be cast upon a certain island. He's telling them that they're going to basically have their journey, quote unquote, delayed, right? Not actually a delay, it's right in God's timing. But yeah, they're gonna be cast away for a bit, right? But we'll get into that. And I think it's the next chapter. But when the 14th night was come, it's a very long storm, right? 14 days and nights. As we were driven up and down in our Adria, about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. It's a measurement, some kind of measurement. Don't know what it is, though. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again, and found it 15 fathoms. Then, fearing lest we should have fallen upon the rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern, and wished for the day. And as the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea, under color as though they would have cast anchors out of the foreship, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, Except these, the men, abide in the ship, ye cannot be saved. Right? Because again, everyone who is with Paul, their life is being supernaturally preserved by God on purpose. Right? Sort of similar to Noah's Ark, right? Whoever was on the ark was saved, right? They did not die. It's a similar thing. Anyways, let's continue. Then the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. And by the way, for here, in line with with Noah and all that, it doesn't matter that Noah was a drunk. It doesn't matter what Noah's sins were, right? He was on the ark. It's a similar meaning for us, right? Who are in Christ. Doesn't matter what we're doing, right? We're on the ark. We're in Christ, right? And so we are saved, right? It's a similar manner here, except this is obviously a physical kind of salvation, right? Their lives are being preserved. Anyways, let's continue. And while the day was coming on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, This day is the 14th day, that ye have tarried and continued fasting. They weren't eating, in other words, right? Having taken nothing. Wherefore I pray you to take some meat. For this is for your health. For there shall not an hair fall from the head of any of you. And thus, when he had thus spoken, he took bread, and gave thanks to God in presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then were they all of good cheer, and they also took some meat. And we were in all in the ship 260 souls. It's a big ship. I said it again beforehand when I was reading this to myself, I guess. In movies and stuff, you typically see the ship being super small and whatever. No, obviously this is a big ship. 260 souls, that's a lot of people. All right? More than 200. It's a big ship. Anyways, let's continue. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship. Again, they're throwing more stuff overboard. And cast out the wheat into the sea. And when it was day, they knew not the land. But they discovered a certain creek with a shore, into the which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship, to land the ship, right? And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves unto the sea, and loosed the rudder bands, and hoist up the mainsail to the wind, and made toward shore. And falling into a place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart stuck fast, and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. I'm pretty sure that before they reached the land, right, something stopped them from moving, right? And then the back part of the ship was just broken off, thrown off, right? Let's continue. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea, and get to land, and the rest, some on boards, and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all to safe to the land. Like, all of them were saved, exactly as Paul had said, right? I'll see you guys in the next one. And I think the next one, chapter 28, is the last chapter of Acts.